The burgundy dress hanging in my closet had been my mother's. Silk that caught light like wine and crystal. I'd worn it twice. Once to my wedding reception. Once to my first anniversary dinner with Marcus. Now it was walking through my in-laws' front door on another woman's body. I stood frozen in the foyer, watching this stranger glide past me like she owned the space. Like she owned my life. The dress fit her perfectly. Too perfectly. She must have had it altered. My hands shook as I held the bottle of wine I'd brought for dinner. 15-year-old Malbec. Marcus's favorite. I'd spent 2 hours picking it out, wanting everything to be perfect for this family gathering. Marcus's mother, Diane, rushed forward with arms outstretched. Not toward me. Toward her. "Rebecca, darling, you look absolutely stunning. That dress is exquisite." Rebecca. So that was her name. My husband's mistress had a name, and my mother-in-law knew it. The wine bottle slipped from my fingers. Glass exploded against marble. Dark liquid spread like blood across the pristine white floor. "Oh no, Sarah. How clumsy." Diane's voice carried that particular chill she reserved for disappointments. "Rebecca, sweetheart, let me show you to your seat." My seat. At the head table. The chair where I'd sat for 3 years of family dinners. Where I'd carved turkey last Thanksgiving. Where I'd announced my promotion 6 months ago while everyone pretended to celebrate. Marcus appeared from nowhere, his hand finding the small of Rebecca's back. Guiding her. Protecting her. The way he used to touch me. "Mom, Dad, everyone, I'd like you to properly meet Rebecca." The room held its breath. His father, Richard, stood from his leather armchair. The patriarch rising for someone he deemed worthy of respect. He'd never stood when I entered a room. Not once in 3 years. "Rebecca, welcome to our family." Family. The word hit like a physical blow. I pressed my back against the wall, watching this choreographed performance. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. Rehearsed. They'd discussed seating arrangements. They'd approved her dress choice. They'd decided I would stand here, watching, while they welcomed my replacement. Marcus's sister Emma bounced over, wine glass already in hand. "Rebecca, I've heard so much about you. That gallery opening last month sounded incredible." Gallery opening. While I was working 60-hour weeks trying to make partner at the firm, Rebecca was attending gallery openings with my husband's family. Meeting them. Bonding with them. Becoming them. "Sarah?" Marcus finally acknowledged my existence. "You're unusually quiet." Unusually quiet. Like I was the disruption in this carefully orchestrated evening. Like my presence was the problem that needed addressing. I found my voice. Where should I sit? The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Everyone stopped pretending to arrange flowers or check their phones. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Some pitying. Some embarrassed. Some coldly satisfied. Diane tilted her head, that practiced expression of concern she'd perfected over decades of managing appearances. "Oh, sweetheart, didn't Marcus tell you? We're 1 chair short tonight. The table only seats 12, and with Rebecca joining us. I can stand." "Don't be ridiculous." Richard's voice carried authority that brooked no argument. "Emma, surely you can find Sarah something in the kitchen." The kitchen. With the hired help and the leftover chairs they dragged out for overflow seating during large parties. Rebecca touched Marcus's arm. A small gesture. Gentle. Proprietary. "Maybe I should eat in the kitchen. I don't want to cause problems." "Absolutely not." Diane's response came sharp and immediate. "You're family now, darling. Sarah understands." Sarah understands. I understood perfectly. This wasn't about chair shortage. This wasn't about family dinner logistics. This was about power. Territory. The slow, systematic erasure of my place in this world I'd tried so hard to belong to. Marcus hadn't said a word in my defense. Hadn't suggested alternative arrangements. Hadn't even looked uncomfortable. He stood there, one hand on Rebecca's back, watching his family banish me to the kitchen like unwanted help. Of course, my voice sounded steady. Professional. The same tone I used for closing difficult negotiations. The kitchen sounds perfect. I walked past them all. Past Rebecca in my mother's dress. Past Marcus's cowardly silence. Past Diane's triumphant smile. Into the kitchen where the caterers worked efficiently around a small folding table set for one. The wine stain in the foyer would require professional cleaning. Diane would bill me for it later. Add it to the growing list of ways I'd disappointed this family. Another reason I didn't belong. Through the serving window, I watched them take their seats. Rebecca slid into my chair with practiced grace, accepting congratulations and compliments like she'd been born to this role. Marcus pulled her chair out for her, kissed her temples softly, whispered something that made her laugh. The same laugh I'd heard echoing from his office at the company Christmas party 3 months ago, when I'd walked in looking for him and found them together. When he'd sworn it meant nothing. A mistake. Too much wine and holiday stress. When he'd promised to end it. Instead, he'd brought her to family dinner, dressed her in my mother's dress, given her my seat at a table where I'd never truly belonged anyway. The caterer, a woman my age with kind eyes, set down a plate of food. The lamb is excellent tonight. Don't let them ruin your appetite. Thank you. 20 years I've been catering for this family. She kept her voice low, professional. Never seen anything like this. That woman's been to 4 dinners this year. Always seated where you're sitting now. 4 dinners. While I'd been traveling for work, attending conferences, building the career that was supposed to secure our future, Rebecca had been building something else entirely. Relationships. Trust. Belonging. He told them you two were having problems. That you'd grown apart. That you were too focused on work to prioritize family. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. He told them that. Diane mentioned it to me last month when I was planning tonight's menu. Said they shouldn't expect you much longer. That Marcus had found someone who understood what family meant. The lamb tasted like ash. Like disappointment. Like 3 years of trying to earn love from people who'd never intended to give it. From the dining room came laughter. Warm, inclusive laughter that wrapped around Rebecca like a cashmere blanket. The kind of acceptance I'd chased through birthday parties and holiday gatherings and anniversary celebrations where I smiled until my face ached and pretended not to notice how they forgot my name half the time. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. How's dinner with the in-laws? Still trying to impress the impossible? I stared at the message. Lisa had called them impossible from day one. Said they treated me like Marcus's temporary girlfriend instead of his wife. Said real family didn't make you audition for love year after year. I defended them. Made excuses. Insisted they just needed time to warm up to me. But they'd warmed up to Rebecca immediately. Welcomed her. Embraced her. Given her everything I'd begged for without her even having to ask. Sarah? Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, guilt written across her face in red wine and embarrassment. Mom wanted me to check on you. Make sure you're comfortable. Comfortable. Eating alone in the kitchen while her brother's mistress wore my dress to my seat at their table. I'm fine. This is really awkward. I should have said something earlier, but Mom was so excited about Rebecca, and Dad thinks she's perfect for Marcus, and honestly, Sarah, you two have seemed so disconnected lately. Disconnected. You're always working. Always traveling. Rebecca makes time for family. She comes to Emma's art shows and remembers everyone's birthdays and asks about Dad's golf game. She fits. She fits. The words landed like punches. Each one true and terrible. Rebecca fit because she made herself available. Because she prioritized their approval over her own career ambitions. Because she understood the game I'd never learned to play. I should get back, Emma hesitated at the doorway. They're serving dessert soon. Dessert. The finale to this perfectly orchestrated humiliation. I imagined Rebecca laughing over tiramisu, Marcus feeding her bites from his spoon, Diane already planning their wedding in her head. The caterer cleared my barely touched plate. There's a back exit through the garden, if you'd prefer to skip dessert. A mercy. A way out that wouldn't require walking past the dining room table where my replacement held court in my mother's dress. But running felt like surrender. like admitting they'd won. I stood up, smoothing my simple black dress. Conservative. Professional. The kind of outfit that screamed trying too hard in a room full of people who'd been born knowing exactly where they belonged. The dining room had grown louder, more relaxed. Wine had loosened tongues and dissolved whatever small reservations anyone might have harbored about this arrangement. Rebecca held court at the head of the table, animated and glowing, while Marcus gazed at her with something I hadn't seen in his eyes for months. Wonder. Like she was a miracle he couldn't believe he'd found. Sarah? Diane's voice cut through the conversation. Come join us for dessert. We have tiramisu. The invitation felt obligatory. A gesture toward politeness now that the main event was over. Now that they'd made their point. Thank you, but I should head home. Early morning tomorrow. Always working, Richard's comment carried disappointment but not surprise. Like this was exactly what he'd expected from me. Another confirmation that I'd never understood their priorities. Marcus finally looked at me. Really looked. For just a moment, I saw something flicker across his face.
Guilt, maybe.
Or regret. But Rebecca's hand found his underneath the table, and the moment passed. Drive safely, he turned back to his dessert. Drive safely. Like I was a distant relative departing after an obligatory visit. Not his wife of 3 years. Not the woman who'd shared his bed and his dreams and his bank account and his name. I walked toward the foyer, past the wine stain that hadn't been cleaned yet, past the photograph wall where our wedding picture had been quietly relocated to a less prominent spot sometime in the last 6 months, past the guest book where Rebecca had signed her name in flowing script below mine. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Final. Like the end of a chapter I'd been desperately trying to rewrite. My car sat alone in the circular driveway. Behind me, warm light spilled from the dining room windows. Silhouettes moved against golden glass like figures in a snow globe. A perfect family scene that no longer included me. The engine turned over on the second try. Classical music filled the silence, something soft and melancholy that matched my mood. I sat there for a moment, watching that warm window, thinking about the woman inside wearing my mother's dress.
My phone rang.
Lisa's name flashed on the screen. Hey, how was dinner with the dragons? She was wearing Mom's dress. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, what? His mistress. She was there, sitting in my chair, wearing Mom's burgundy silk dress. The one from the wedding. That bastard gave her Mom's dress? He must have taken it from our closet, had it altered to fit her perfectly. His family welcomed her like she was already married to him. Where are you right now? Sitting in their driveway, listening to Chopin and having an existential crisis. Come to my house.
Now.
We're going to plan the most spectacular divorce this state has ever seen. I looked back at the dining room window one more time. They were all standing now, moving toward the living room for after-dinner drinks. Rebecca moved with easy grace, one hand trailing along Marcus's arm, already knowing the rhythm of their evening routines. She'd studied them, learned them, made herself indispensable while I was working 12-hour days to build a future she would now inherit. Sarah, are you coming?
Yeah.
I'm coming. I put the car in drive and rolled down the circular driveway, past perfectly manicured landscaping and security lights that illuminated the American dream Marcus and I were supposed to be living together. The dream Rebecca was now living instead. By the time I reached Lisa's house, the shock had crystallized into something harder.
Cleaner.
More useful. Rage. Lisa met me at the door with wine and tissues and the kind of righteous fury that only sisters can summon on each other's behalf. Tell me everything. From the beginning. Every single detail. So I did. The altered dress. The prepared seating arrangement. The casual familiarity between Rebecca and every member of Marcus's family. The way they'd spoken to her versus the way they'd dismissed me. The 4 previous dinners I'd never known about. They've been grooming her to replace you. Lisa paced her living room like a trial lawyer preparing opening arguments. This wasn't spontaneous. This was strategic. Calculated. They wanted you to see this. They wanted you to understand your position. Mission accomplished.
Good.
Because now we know there's Lisa pulled out her laptop. What does Rebecca do for work? I don't know. We're going to find out. What's her last name? I don't know that either. 20 minutes of internet research later, we had answers. Rebecca Chun, curator at Morrison Gallery. Divorced 2 years ago. No children. Art history degree from Columbia. Social media filled with gallery openings and wine tastings and carefully curated lifestyle content. The kind of woman who made being beautiful look effortless. Look at this, Lisa pointed to a photo from 3 months ago. Rebecca and Marcus at some charity gala, both dressed impeccably, both smiling like they own the world. This was posted the same week you told me he was working late every night on the Henderson account. Working late. While I'd been covering his client dinners and picking up his slack at the firm, he'd been building a public relationship with the woman who would replace me. She's perfect for them, the words came out bitter. Beautiful, cultured, available. Everything I'm not. You're brilliant. You're accomplished. You built a career they could never match. None of that matters to them. Rebecca makes time for family. Rebecca remembers birthdays. Rebecca fits. Lisa closed the laptop. Sarah, look at me. I met her eyes. Saw the anger there, but something else too. Determination. You tried to earn their love for 3 years. You changed yourself, compromised your boundaries, worked twice as hard to prove you belonged. And tonight they showed you exactly what they think of those efforts. Pretty clearly. So stop trying to earn what they were never going to give you. Start taking what's yours. What's mine? Community property accumulated during marriage. Assets built through joint contributions. A law firm partnership I'd sacrificed everything to achieve. The house Marcus and I shared. The investments we'd made together. The future we'd planned. The life Rebecca was now positioned to inherit. I want that dress back, I said quietly. We'll get you more than the dress. By midnight, we had a plan. By morning, I had a lawyer. By noon, I had leverage Marcus never saw coming. The Henderson account he'd been neglecting while courting Rebecca? Built on my research, my client relationships, my 3 years of cultivation work. My name on every preliminary contract and consultation memo. The house he thought he owned free and clear? Purchased with inheritance money from my grandmother's estate, carefully documented in our prenuptial agreement. The promotion he was expecting next quarter? Based on case work I'd completed while he focused on his personal life. Rebecca might have his family's approval and my mother's dress. But I had something more valuable. Paper trails. Documentation. Evidence. 3 years of emails detailing his affair. Financial records showing company resources used for personal entertainment. Client lists built with my connections and maintained through my work. He's been sloppy, my lawyer explained over coffee. Overconfident. Men like this always assume they're smarter than their wives. They never expect us to be paying attention. But I had been paying attention. Every late night, every changed password, every new expense that didn't make sense. The signs I'd chosen to ignore while fighting for a marriage that was already over. What do you want? Lisa asked that evening. Revenge? Justice? Just to move on. I thought about Rebecca in my mother's dress, laughing at the table where I'd never truly belonged. About Marcus's cowardly silence. About Diane's satisfied smile when she banished me to the kitchen. I want them to understand consequences. Then let's give them some. The divorce papers were served the following Thursday. At the office, during the partners' meeting where Marcus was scheduled to present the Henderson proposal. My proposal, with his name on it. I wasn't there to see his face when he realized what was happening. But Emma called me an hour later, her voice shaking with something between panic and betrayal. Sarah, what are you doing? Marcus is devastated. Mom is hysterical. We need to talk about this like adults. I tried talking to adults last Sunday. They seated me in the kitchen. That was just a misunderstanding. A seating mix-up. Emma, your brother's mistress, was wearing my dead mother's dress at your parents' dinner table. That wasn't a mix-up. That was a message. Silence. Then, quietly, maybe we could have handled things better? Maybe. The word I'd been living on for 3 years. Maybe they'd accept me eventually. Maybe I'd find my place in their family. Maybe Marcus would choose our marriage over his wandering eye. Maybe had run out. The legal proceedings moved faster than anyone expected. Marcus's lawyer, expensive and arrogant, had assumed this would be a straightforward division of assets. A clean break between two professionals who'd grown apart. He hadn't expected the documented evidence of adultery, the misuse of company resources, the financial irregularities that made Marcus's position at the firm untenable. Your husband wants to negotiate, my lawyer reported after the first settlement conference. He's willing to discuss terms. What kind of terms? He keeps the house. You keep your 401k. Clean split, no spousal support either direction. I laughed. Actually laughed. He thinks I'm still the same woman who begged for table scraps at family dinner. Should I prepare a counteroffer?
No.
We proceed exactly as planned. The Henderson account collapsed 2 weeks later when the client discovered Marcus had been misrepresenting his role in the project development. $23 million in potential revenue, lost because he claimed credit for work he hadn't done. His partners were not amused. Rebecca, meanwhile, had gone suspiciously quiet on social media. No more gallery opening photos with mysterious handsome companions. No more wine and wisdom posts about finding love when you least expect it. Word filtered back through professional circles that Morrison Gallery was restructuring. Budget cuts. Personnel changes. The kind of upheaval that happened when major donors withdrew their support. Donors like Richard Morrison, Marcus's uncle by marriage, whose foundation had been supporting Rebecca's gallery for the past year. Before she'd ever met Marcus, as it turned out. The relationship that seemed so organic, so serendipitous, had been carefully orchestrated from the beginning. They've been planning this for over a year, Lisa said, reviewing the financial documents we'd uncovered. Rebecca's divorce was finalized 6 months before she started seeing Marcus. Her gallery got major funding right around the time you told me he was working late every night. A business arrangement. A merger. They just forgot to divorce you first. The final settlement hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday in March. I arrived early, wearing my best suit and carrying 3 years' worth of documentation in a leather briefcase that had been a wedding gift from Marcus's parents. Ironic. Marcus sat at the defendant's table looking smaller than I remembered. Tired. The confident swagger that had carried him through business meetings and family gatherings had been replaced by something hollow. Defeated. Rebecca wasn't there. Where's his girlfriend? Lisa whispered. Probably updating her resume. The judge reviewed the settlement terms with clinical efficiency. Marcus received exactly what he'd brought into the marriage. His personal items, his car, and the crushing weight of professional consequences. I received everything we'd built together, including the house he'd assumed would be his to share with Rebecca. Mr. Morrison, do you understand the terms of this settlement as read? Yes, Your Honor. And you agree to these terms without coercion? A pause. Marcus looked across the courtroom at me for the first time since the proceedings began. I met his gaze steadily, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Yes, Your Honor. The gavel fell. 3 years of marriage dissolved in 15 minutes of legal formality. Outside the courthouse, Marcus finally approached me. Sarah, can we talk? We just did. For the last 4 months through lawyers. I never meant for things to end like this. You never meant to get caught. He stood there in his expensive suit, looking like a man who'd miscalculated everything important. Rebecca and I, it wasn't what you think. It was exactly what I think. A strategic replacement plan that everyone knew about except your actual wife. My family. They just wanted me to be happy. Your family wanted you to have someone who would prioritize their approval over her own career. Someone who would make them the center of her world. Someone who fit their narrow definition of what women should be. I shouldered my briefcase. They got exactly what they wanted. Until they realized what that kind of person actually costs. I walked away from him then, past the courthouse steps where we'd taken pictures after our wedding ceremony. where he'd promised to love and honor me in sickness and health, for better and worse. He'd kept half that promise. He'd loved me through the better. The worse had been more challenging. 6 months later, I received an invitation to Emma's engagement party. Formal cardstock with gold embossing and careful calligraphy. The kind of invitation that cost more than most people's weekly salary. At the bottom, in Diane's precise handwriting, "We hope you can attend this joyful celebration of family." Family. I threw it away unopened. But Lisa, bless her relentless curiosity, had already done research. Emma was marrying David Chun, Rebecca's ex-husband, the gallery owner who'd been funding Rebecca's lifestyle through his connections to Marcus's family. A tidy circle of business relationships masquerading as romance. "They're not even pretending anymore," Lisa reported over dinner. "It's like they decided to just marry each other's exes and call it destiny." What about Rebecca? Last I heard, teaching art history at a community college upstate. The gallery closed in May. I felt something that might have been pity. Rebecca had played the game perfectly, made all the right moves, positioned herself exactly where she thought she wanted to be. But games like that require constant performance. Constant vigilance. The moment she'd stopped being useful to their business arrangements, she'd been discarded as efficiently as I had been. The difference was I'd built something that belonged to me alone. My career, my reputation, my sense of self-worth that didn't depend on other people's approval. Rebecca had built her value around fitting into someone else's life. When that life no longer needed her, she had nothing left to stand on. "Do you ever regret it?" Lisa asked. "The nuclear option?" I thought about the question seriously. About the house I now lived in alone, decorated exactly how I wanted, without compromise. About the promotion I'd earned based on merit, not marriage connections. About sleeping through the night without wondering who Marcus was texting. I regret wasting 3 years trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. I don't regret stopping. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Marcus's new number, probably. "I heard about your partnership announcement. Congratulations. You deserved it." Too little, too late. But acknowledgement nonetheless. I deleted the message without responding. Some conversations were finished. Some chapters were closed. Some dresses were never meant to be shared. The burgundy silk had been returned to my closet, professionally cleaned and carefully pressed. It hung there now next to career clothes and social clothes and comfortable clothes that all belonged to me alone. Sometimes I thought about wearing it again. Taking it to dinner parties where I'd built my own relationships, my own sense of belonging. Where I didn't have to audition for acceptance or compete for table space. But some things were better left untouched. Sacred. Reserved for the memory of what they'd represented before betrayal had stained them. My mother's dress would stay in the closet. A reminder of what I'd lost and what I'd learned and what I'd never allow anyone to take from me again. Some seats at the table were worth fighting for. Others were worth walking away from entirely. The difference, I'd learned, was knowing which was which.